Can't hear anything.
All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is the Crypto Roundtable, Token Metrics Roundtable, and this is going to be the trading edition. We have a bunch of traders in house. We have Matty with this channel. We have Coach K back again. We have Pedro from Quantum Economics, and we have Bill Noble. Everyone knows Bill. Welcome to the show. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Doing good. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Great. Thanks, man.
Awesome. So this is going out to both YouTube channels, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook. Also gets turned into a podcast. If anybody's having any issues with the stream, just comment down in the comments below, and our team will take a look. So let's begin things with introductions. So, Matty, how about doing a quick intro on yourself?
Sure. For those that don't know me, I have a background in computer science. I was a lead SQA engineer as a Selenium architect developer for a startup that ended up going national in the slow and autistic disabilities EI services space. In 2014, I got into crypto. 2017, started doing content creation, created my own company called Matty Consulting in 2018. This year, I've currently been working with the DeFi Accelerator out of Asia, where we incubated BTC. Also been working with the Magnus Capital Group with projects like ETHverse, Falcon Swap, and Unilend. And I'm also an administrator over at the Moon Hunters Telegram channel. So pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on, Ian.
Awesome. Welcome. Let's go to Pedro.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Ian. So right now I'm doing research and analysis at Quantum Economics, which is the newest venture released by Matty Greenspan. He's quite a well-known trader. And I've also in the past founded my own business, a recruitment company. Then I moved into cryptocurrency in late 2016. I started writing for CCN. I wrote for many different publications, and then joined Matty Greenspan on Quantum Economics, and I've been doing research on on-chain data ever since. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, very interesting. Now let's go to Coach K.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Coach K, sorry, but we're seeing your desktop. It's like this Black Mirror type thing.
Black Mirror.
yeah, it just keeps on showing your desktop inside a desktop inside a desktop.
It's showing your Zoom, I think, at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Give me 1 sec. Is that better?
Yeah, okay. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Thanks for having me again. My name is Coach K. I'm better known as Joel, but Coach K is what. Thanks for having me again. My name. Sorry, I'm hearing myself. That's weird. Yeah, I'm a trader, marketer, and I've been in crypto for 4 years. I also focus on research into private sales, and I started doing YouTube again after a long hiatus. And yeah, I love crypto and I love trading and I love helping people and helping them, understand the markets from a very, fundamental and technical perspective, and one that's very objective instead of subjective. So yeah, thanks.
All right, awesome. Welcome. Let's go to Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill. I work with Ian at Token Metrics. So I've got this background in legacy. I was a technical analyst for like the big banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. Sort of the way I made my living was being an analyst in a crisis, whether it was a big up move or down move, which, as we know in crypto pretty much happens every other day. So it's a good fit. When I moved from legacy, I started in crypto. I wound up with like Charlie Shrem in the beginning. And a lot of guys who used to read my work when I was in legacy were like, hey, we're dying to see what you think of crypto. So now I'm working with Ian at Token Metrics, doing everything from charts to cryptotherapy to strategy to it all. So that's me.
All right. Thank you, Bill. And most people know me by now, but I'm Ian Balina, the founder of Token Metrics. We're a cryptocurrency investment research platform that helps crypto investors just become smarter through the help of analytics, data, and now machine learning. I've been in crypto since 2016. My background is in analytics and AI at IBM Watson Analytics, and I love crypto. All right, so welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. It's a pleasure. So we have lots of content to talk about, from the KuCoin hack to what you think will happen with crypto and equities as we get closer to the election, and answering any questions anybody has via the AMA. So for those who have questions, please go to menti.com. Let me pull up the code. Just give me 1 sec. So go to menti.com, MENTI.com. Use the code 784018. That's 784018 to submit your questions. We'll also be taking some questions through comments as well. But ideally, please go to menti.com to post your questions. Okay, all right. So with that being said, I think let's hop straight into it.
That's good.
All right. Sorry, my desktop is acting up here. Apologies. I'm trying to pull everyone up here. Okay, all right. So I think let's begin with doing a quick market analysis. So let's begin with Bill. Kind of tell us from your perspective what's happening in crypto in the last 1 week with Bitcoin and Ethereum, for you to also do any TA.
Certainly. So let me bring this up real quick. So this week I decided to focus on, like what just happened? Like what did we all just go through? Okay. So this chart I came across, the chart that's going from the bottom left to the top right, that's home sales. And the sort of yellow line that's collapsing, that is U.S. homes inventory. Now you're like, why are you showing me this on a crypto show? Well, because one of the ways I know a couple smart people make a living in crypto is just by following a whale's footprint, big picture. And I know crypto just got totally stupid. The whole altcoin thing was so kind of overdone. But I'm wondering if all of this selling was people who just unloaded assets, took the gains, and rolled it over in a house to get out of big urban areas. Like I know in the area that I'm in, $200,000 houses are trading for $400,000. So we moved the bubble from crypto to housing. Now, when that happened, if you're looking at this little arrow here in Ethereum, they smacked it down to like 333, which, has been an inflection point a couple of times, right? They smacked it down. Was the bottom in 2017 and the top in 2018 and 2019. So I know there's probably a couple reasons to not like crypto at the moment, particularly with fear in equities. I'm not going to freak out because big support held in Ethereum. Now, when you look at Bitcoin, right, I like to do diagonal and horizontal resistances and supports. And if you look at Bitcoin on a 2-week basis, I had this big level at 10,400 that came from like the work of William Gann. I do it by hand. Okay. So the fact that it popped above 10,400 was encouraging. And I think in order to really get excited, it's got to take out 10,750. So we'll see. Okay. But at least crypto took the big punch of everybody going, oh no, I got to take profits and buy a house. Now, your preview for next week. Okay. This is LQD. Okay. And LQD is a corporate bond ETF. So not junk bonds, but like good corporate bonds. And one of the things in legacy that, everyone's like, ooh, look out, is corporate bankruptcies, right? Because we all know the legacy world's got big problems. The only question is, is the Fed glossing it all over? Okay. Now, I suspect that if corporate bonds start to break down, that may or may not hurt stocks, but it probably won't be good for crypto. So if you're a crypto person, you're praying that stocks and corporate bonds don't fall apart and don't become a disaster. Right? I know everyone's looking at stocks, but then I thought and I brought it up last week, and then I thought to myself, wait a minute, everyone's looking at the same thing. So maybe let's look at something different. All right. Now, the US dollar. Okay. This is also going to be a good story. So Elliott Wave, Elliott Wave is, kind of like, and your elbows, everyone's got 2 counts. Everyone's got 2. This is what I drew, that you may be headed for a possible dollar top. But then I also read something that traders who are short the dollar, they didn't cover on the last upswing. They doubled up. Scary, right? Dollar upside is bad for crypto. All right. So what's my bottom line? Well, got to be careful that the October surprise is not a dollar spike and a bond market crisis. I'm willing to be positive to big cryptos. I don't believe in chasing really small stuff, but I'm going to stay a tentative positive on things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's it.
So bullish big cryptos, not so basically bearish altcoins, short term.
No, I think you can buy dips in altcoins, assuming the market doesn't fall apart. I just don't think you should be chasing 40% rallies. We're back to where we were like 6 months ago, right? Where, we all say FOMOing in doesn't work, but don't chase stuff up 20%. It's not going to work from a trading point of view at all.
Yeah. All right. Anybody with any comments or questions? Coach K, Matty, Pedro, anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. For me, I'm very bearish. I finally got my bear signal on this rally. We're going to see some sort of correction. It's interesting that the GAN levels kind of have like a fallout below that 10.4 all the way down to sub 3. I'm a big believer in saying nothing's impossible. I'm looking for a 7.4K retracement here. Try and hit that 7K floor again and then bounce out of here. But until the election stuff gets out of the way and we see what the debt ceiling fight really looks like heading into December, since we kicked that can down the road, I just think that we bleed out for some time. We see an increase in COVID-related fear being propagated into the market. I think not to get into the politics too deep, but it is relevant. I think you have 2 candidates who both are idiots in their own right, and people are a little hesitant on either side, but that's really going to dictate the flow of the market. People just feel like when Trump's in power, the market has to go up, and they feel like when Biden takes over, that's going to be pretty scary because they're going to have to face capital gains threats from that perspective. But right now we're having a nice consolidation in the indecision area. We're coming back up to test that 11K range, but I think it's only a matter of time until we break down into the 7 to 9K range, and then from there it's a decision if we want to go into some sort of deathward spiral due to mining. Like I think that crypto is a buoy on a large sinking ship, and even though it's your life raft, it's pretty hard to stay afloat when the whole thing is sinking. So I thought it was a great analysis.
All right, Coach K, what's your take on the market?
My take is that not much has changed from last week. I mean, I see some bullish signs that Bill's talking about, but I see like weakness in terms of like the volume is kind of dropping off. The price action is going up, a little bit of a divergence there. I would like to see at that same level, that's 10.75. It seems like it's struggling to get above it. It kind of tries to get above it and goes below and goes up and goes down. So I'm curious to see how Monday plays out. If the DXY does stay bullish, then I think we could see some real interesting times coming up for sure. So, I mean, I can share a chart to show what I'm talking about here, just to give you guys some perspective on where I'm at.
Yeah, but, please go ahead.
Yes, give me 1 second. And I'm just, there's also some data that I've come across as well that's also quite interesting. So I'm just going to do double screen here. So we have DXY. It's potentially coming up to an edge to edge. And like, if we have a bullish Chiku span, so I trade on the Ichimoku. So I'm seeing like, a very bullish movement. Yes, it could be topping out here. I don't have my level there, but it could be topping out in this level. But we have a TK cross here. We have all the setup for an edge to edge, potentially going up to 96.5, which would, as Bill said, be very bad for Bitcoin and for all cryptos. And, then we have Bitcoin with this volume that just keeps tapering down, and the weekend volume was very, very weak. I mean, it's closing in an hour. So I'm not really feeling these candlesticks here. A hangman at resistance, shoot pretty much a shooting star at resistance. Now this doji, it's not really. It's telling me that we're going to go up anytime soon, but anything can happen, like Matty said. So I'm looking at these two together and going, okay. And then I'm also looking at this data, right? So the historical average, September is usually a bad month. October is usually a good month. But we also know that October and September are actually, October is a worse month in election years. But this is more in the traditional markets.
It's either flat or bad. I actually saw, I think, BitBoy and Bill's discussion in last week's episode about that. I had to go back and take a look. It was obviously heavily dependent on market sentiment. Obviously, if you're in a bear market, September was just bear across the board. But I think if you were in a somewhat bull trend from 2016 going up, it was more just either flat or slightly bearish.
Yeah, one thing that's quite interesting is Bitcoin Cash. People are like, why Bitcoin Cash? So
let's go.
What again?
I said, let's go Bitcoin Cash.
So I know a lot of us don't like it from a subjective view, but the thing about it is they have potentially a halving, not a halving, a fork. So there's some internal stuff going on with it within Bitcoin Cash, and it might create two tokens. And so it's something that we're going to have a snapshot in November, and no one knows for sure, but it's been very much hinted that there could be a second coin. There could be like a Bitcoin SV, a Bitcoin ABC type deal within Bitcoin Cash yet again, because of the whole Coinbase issue, where they're giving a bunch of the mined Bitcoin Cash is going towards dev fund. It's like 8% or something of it.
Roger tried to force them to, which is ironic, but Roger tried to force them to incentivize developers to get paid to work on Bitcoin Cash. And the community was like, what the hell are you doing? This is completely opposite of why we came here. So now there's a big back and forth, which, by the way, to Roger's credit, he's now receded that point. But once you open the can of worms in a community that's already ready to strike on opportunity, it's just a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. So, I think potentially just because of that, and, we have to watch the market, obviously, but I think that's why this is starting to have a little bit of it's not really broke out or anything. And it looks like it's trying to reclaim the 21-day EMA, but I am looking at Bitcoin Cash going, maybe this could definitely lead into some people buying to get a second coin. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV made a lot of people money, just because, two coins, if you held on both, you'd make really good profit. So Bitcoin Cash is one to keep on your radar for sure because of that. And that's just more of a fundamental reason. But watch the chart and see if it reclaims the 21-day EMA. Watch to see, how it reacts in the next couple weeks, because November is when that snapshot's happening. And as we all know, because we've all been here, generally when you have a second coin, people buy now and they wait and they let it go and they let people buy in to get that second coin, and they sell before that happens or right after. So keep your eyes on all those things. I'll let someone else have a turn now.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff, Coach K. Pedro, what's your take on the market?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with everybody. I think my short-term, vision is bearish, to be honest. Again, until the election, I think there will be volatility for sure, and I think it will be to the downside. Let me share my screen. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Right. Yeah, can you see my screen? We should.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to show a bit of some different indicators, the ones that I've tried to look into, which are on chain basically. So in terms of addresses, it's the trend is clearly downwards. I'll dig into each one of these indexes, but basically what they show is that it's not looking good. Well, especially for Bitcoin. So in terms of addresses, it's dropping a lot. Yeah, if you come here to take a look, although it was growing, since last year, since September, I think, yeah, since September they started to drop. So I think the trend is, we'll see that some of these Bitcoin, I think that, that we're losing, we're not only losing into, for example, different markets, as Bill was saying, but we're also, some of it is also going into Ethereum, for example, because you can see that in terms of Ethereum, on-chain exchange activity, for example, it's going a lot. So, and I think some of it at least comes from Bitcoin. Although the trend, for example, in terms of addresses and usage, it's also going down in Ethereum, which I thought it was a bit surprising considering we're still a bit in a DeFi hype, I would say. But Ethereum, I don't think it does. It looks that as bad as Bitcoin. The only good thing is in terms of Bitcoin, well, the fees are going down, but the difficulty is going up, which is I think it's a good sign. Although for the past again the last month it dropped a bit, as I think miners were also leaving because the fees and the revenue started to drop. So obviously miners need to leave. But I think the long-term trend, I think it will remain a bit bullish, I think, in the long term. But again, up until the election, I think it's quite hard to know what's going to happen. I would say that testing the 7K floor, I agree with it. I think it's quite possible. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but on-chain indicators also don't look as good as I would like, at least. Yeah.
I think to add on to the on-chain indicators, yeah. I'm seeing a major correlation break between a lot of Uniswap specific altcoins that are riding a mixture of kind of like degen marketing hype and lack of arbitrage opportunity for healthy volume. So I'm seeing when we had that big bear drop or whatever, a number of coins that I had my assets in, you can call them like penny stock hippie crack type deals, which are just like super low liquidity staked in, but still decent volume for Uniswap in general, a few million, et cetera, over a 24-hour period. I was noticing that the price on none of my assets were really dropping. I was making tons of money while we were kind of going through a multi-day bear drop from 12K down to 10K. So I think that's really interesting to see the effect that maybe arbitrage or forex exchanges are having on some of the more I guess blue chip coins and how they bleed out into some bigger alts. And while the lower alts aren't really getting hatcheted like you would have saw in like 2017, where we didn't have this infrastructure built out for on-chain liquidity.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially because if you look at the trend, for example, at the DeFi Pulse, it's still clearly going up. We did have a setback, in the beginning of September, but the trend is still going up. It's close to 11 billion total value locked. So I think it still means that people are putting money into it. So they're betting on unknown coins or DeFi coins, whatever. Yeah, clearly.
All right, thank you, Pedro. So here, let me also kind of share our perspective looking at the data. So let me pull up token metrics. So when it comes to the short-term trading data, actually our TA is neutral at the moment when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, just kind of in terms of anybody, if you are looking to possibly look into getting an entry now and probably in the next month or so, could be a possible opportunity, right? Because in terms of the scores we've ever scored historically speaking for traders for Bitcoin, it's pretty high, right? Now, obviously the TA is not bullish yet, but we think this could be definitely a big moment of truth. Now, for value investors, kind of the same thing, right? Pretty much it's neutral on Bitcoin. Even the price predictions are pretty neutral. They think Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably going to be going sideways for the next month or so. So if we go to the 30-day price prediction on Bitcoin, so right now Bitcoin is about 10,700, and we have it going as low as about 10,100 before possibly going back to where it is. So pretty much it's just going to be flat, essentially, is what our price prediction says. Then if we go to Ethereum, pretty much the same thing. Pretty much kind of thinking it's just going to go flat, be pretty flat. Bill, also earlier this week in our newsletter, you basically kind of said that if Ethereum would hold, I believe, 345 and Bitcoin, was it 10,400?
Right.
Could you maybe
it was like
333
Ethereum and 10.4 in Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much right now, just kind of long story short, neutral, not quite bullish, not quite bearish in the short term. I think we kind of have to wait and see how things kind of progress. But as we get closer to the election, I definitely do get more concerned with what could possibly happen. All right, so definitely tell us what you think. Are you bullish on Bitcoin and crypto as we head into October, or are you bearish, or are you also neutral? Tell us what you think down in the comments below. All right, awesome. So let me just do a quick check-in here with people in the comments and see how everyone is doing. What's up, crypto family? People talking about Uniswap. Digital Dave and Tim Draper are the only people on the internet that like Bitcoin Cash. All right, for that comment. Meadow says, "What's with the rope?" That's oh hey Matty's background. I'm guessing it's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you want to know about the rope? Yeah, I'll tell you about the rope.
Yeah.
So I've been super down the K-hole on DeFi, farming, NFTs, Uniswap. It's literally 10 times more money and opportunity and different things going on than the ICO era ever could have provided in 2017. Way more high risk, a lot of anon teams, a narrative being shaped of a backlash from the cypherpunk movement that was shut out from 2011 to 2017. They're making a comeback because from 2017 to 2019, we implemented a lot of red tape. There was a lot of consolidation in power between mining and exchanges and who have you, and a lot of institutional people would come in. So now we're starting to see a lot of people going the anon route, which does bring on risk, obviously. But specifically in the NFT space, there is a new project that has come out called Rope. They're actually following a very similar path, such as Meme and Based, which are two major projects at the moment. And this movement is basically just an airdrop with no raise of any sort of money. It's completely decentralized launch, no money given to the team, really low supply. Essentially, Rope is a community coin at this point, but they're essentially taking the reins to basically launch this NFT staking platform with at least 10 NFTs. I've seen some of the NFTs. They look a lot better than what Meme's doing. And Meme, I think, was at like a $20 or $30 million market cap. Rope's like at 2. I'm actually one of the top, full disclosure, top 4 Rope holders. So I have like over $30,000 in Rope. So yeah, I think that a lot of people are confused of how to get access into the NFT ecosystem. I think a lot of people think that it could be the next wave in a number of different things that are coming out. And I think Rope is kind of providing that because they're working on their V1 right now. Community is very welcoming. They're doing their kind of like proof of attendance protocol, which is an NFT that they just airdropped me for being an early supporter. And what I think is really cool is that they have a 98% based approval rate on the new Moonbase platform. And Moonbase is essentially this community bootstrapping platform for the Base project, where actually Sushi, I believe, just submitted a proposal to be a part of that community. So it's really huge on community. It's really big on ad hoc bootstrapping development, bring together without having perhaps like a monetary incentive, on the same way that you would have where these teams like centralize their raises and stuff like that. So I think it's a really unique approach in terms of building things and having people donate to a greater cause. And I think that Rope is in a really good position and has a really solid community to be able to execute on that level.
Okay, now a quick question. So would you consider Rope a meme or no? Like a meme coin?
Yeah, so I believe Meme was more crypto specific meme coins, and I think Rope is kind of like more anime realm. I think Coach K could probably expand on that a little better himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have my own project coming out soon too, which is pretty cool. And we're doing NFTs, we're doing yield farming, and we're also including gamification, where we'll have like a whole game studio. we have our first game, and we're doing it different than me and the other guys because we found another way to do and have the mechanisms built that I can't. My CEO JD would kill me if I said it online right now because I kind of. But basically, like, we're doing it similar, but in a way that uses the NFT and gives them more value than just like having NFTs to have NFTs. So we found a way to actually make the NFTs valuable for people that are going to use them, and it ties all everything, like the farming side of things and staking and yeah, and the gamification side. We have a really fun, cool game. Our second game is like Trump versus Z. It's really cool. So we're developing that right now. And I think, like you were saying, NFTs are going to be massive. There are benefits to NFTs. Like, I'm Canadian, and if I go back to Canada, if I was buying and trading, I'd have to pay taxes. But on NFTs, technically, they're like collector's items, right? So if I wanted to collector's item, I'm not going to pay as much tax on it. So there are benefits to them too that I think people will start to exploit. And I think definitely that's a good question you should put up, Ian. I think NFTs could be the next wave after DeFi, the DAO and DeFi phase has, it's eventually going to go more legit, and the APY is going to come down. It's going to be more, like what Bill was talking about, basically, that it's going to be like real finance, and it's, going to draw real big investors. That's like why I went into OpenDAO, you're seeing projects now that are coming out that actually are trying to take real world assets and put them on and off chain. And actually, I think these types of things with the DeFi space will legitimize it and get away maybe from the meme, but I still think the communities will be strong. Crypto is like the strongest community, as Dave from Stool said. He's like, I love the crypto community. It's the best. I don't know how to trade it. It's really confusing. But it's true. I mean, all of us are here for so long, not as much about the money, because we all did really well. I think it's more about the fact that we love the people. We love helping people. It's fun. Everything we do, we laugh every day. I don't think you get that in a lot of jobs. You don't get the jokes, the laughs, the oh my God moments that you have every day in crypto. And it makes it exciting for all of us, I think.
Yeah. All right, cool. So to all our audience and also people on other platforms, go to minty.com and tell us what you think. Do you think NFTs are the next big trend in crypto? Tell us what you think. It's pretty straightforward, yes or no. Right now, most people are saying yes by a landslide. But I mean, so for me, honestly, I don't know much about NFTs. I've not looked too much into it. I've been mainly focused on DeFi and just either TA with Bill or just kind of doing more analytics investing. But recently, I have been seeing lots of interest when it comes to NFT. I'm not sure if it was mainly because of how well Meme did, the token that launched. And I've seen people talk about it from Elio Trades, I think even BitBoy as well. There's been a new interest when it comes to NFTs. And if we go back to 2017, CryptoKitties was pretty much the biggest NFT type token to launch, but it didn't really go mainstream. Now, I know they're doing lots of new things now. They're building their own blockchain with Flow that's actually doing a token sale on CoinList. And I think that could be pretty good. But I think we're still missing the big players that can really take NFTs mainstream. But I think that NFTs could be one of the aspects of crypto that really goes mainstream, because it's a very easy to understand use case for anybody. It's pretty much collecting, right? So for example, with Flow and the CryptoKitties company, they have partnerships with the NBA, with MLB. So I think things like that could really take NFT and make that become the next trend. Now, is it going to surpass DeFi anytime soon? I think that's hard to say, but I mean, anything is possible, especially when you have big players coming in and they really kind of back it and support it. Bill, what's your take when it comes to NFTs?
Okay, so I got a lot of hedge fund buddies chit-chatting about all this. When I first heard about it, and it was as I understood it, and jump in and correct me, but as Coach said, if you wanted to hodl something, you don't flip a collectible, you hold it. So I was wondering if this is the type of thing where people were going to buy it and hodl it and then pay much lower taxes when they exited, because it's not a security, it's a collectible. So I was wondering if, it was tax efficient crypto, and when, I pulled up like the chart of, this chart of Meme, right? I mean, it's a 60-minute chart, but this is almost like what I would call like the Uniswap moon formula, where it goes up, it crashes, and then it makes some kind of base after people give up. Now, of course, previously in DeFi, this occurred over a period of years because it's crypto. Now with NFTs, they may be doing it in a period of months. So, hey, folks, crypto's fun. It's like the coach said. So if we're entering into a period where things could become a drag, like, for example, I heard in Argentina, people can't get US dollars. They can't get it. Yeah. So that does make things like Dash and Zcash interesting because they were sort of useful in Venezuela. But, if you don't want to talk about that, and no one does, except me, but no one wants to talk about that. A lot of people want to talk about NFTs because it's exciting, right? And that creates price action unto itself.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Pedro, your take on NFTs?
Yeah, I love NFTs, to be honest. I think NFTs are definitely going to be something big, especially because if you think about it, NFTs can be DeFi, so they can be used as collateral, right? I think it was Rocket Loans, I think, that they tried to do something like that. I think there's other projects trying to do that. But not only that, at some point, I think it's going to be very easy to borrow and lend NFTs. Collector Yield, I think, does that. And I mean, there's some projects already trying to, add on to the aspect of, for example, gamings or collectibles, because if they do hold some value for people, you can actually associate them to lending protocols and use them as collateral, basically. So I think that could be something big as well. But my take is that definitely NFTs are going to be huge. CryptoKitties, I agree, it was just an initial launch of NFTs, and it was pretty big in 2017, but it kind of died off. I think we have Chili's and some other projects that are tokenizing collectibles for sports, for example. So I think that the range of options is so great that there's no way that it's not going to be huge, honestly, in my opinion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else with any other comments? No? All right. So going back to what the audience said, so pretty much by a landslide, people do think NFTs are the next trend. So thank you for telling us that. I think it definitely is an exciting time to be in crypto. And you always have to kind of stay one step ahead and research. And if NFTs are the next trend, we should all do more research on them and figure out what's really going to do well. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Let's go to the next segment. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the KuCoin hack. So for those who don't know, KuCoin got hacked this week or last week, and they lost a bunch of money. Now, I've not kept too much tabs on it, but my understanding is lots of projects have rallied and come together in good faith and have basically frozen funds or are in the process of exploring doing token swaps to mitigate the hack. So the question of the day is, what do you think of the KuCoin hack? And the options are not your keys, not your coins, or love the way they handled it, or not using KuCoin again, or 4, never use KuCoin.
You should have put a Trevon James shout out there and been like, you kind of lost your money, All
right, so Matty, I mean,
yeah,
your take?
I mean, I'm on option 1 here, not your keys, not your coins. Like, I've been loving market buying on Uniswap and not having to send money to centralized exchanges. I've been an advocate against centralized exchanges for a long time. I think you and I, Ian, have had conversations on live streams dating back to 2017 where we thought maybe atomic swaps could be the thing, but Uniswap is literally changing the game. When I look at top 20 coins, 15 of them have their own blockchain. I think 15 to 17 of them, and the other 3 to 5 are based on usage, like actual usage, or they were usage and switched to a blockchain, which is a common theme with some Ethereum coins. Once they get so big, they just create their own blockchain for whatever reason. So I think Uniswap is no exception. I see them going to a top 20, and we should just promote, trading within our own wallets and not support centralized exchanges. They have a space in the ecosystem on an institutional larger layer, but what I've liked about this decentralized revolution that we've been experiencing for the last several months is that these exchanges are much smaller and our power much greater. So stop supporting them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
agree.
Yeah.
Anybody want to chime in on that, Coach K?
I think things like trade, for example, when we're on that, where we're going to be able to actually feel like we're trading on Uniswap. But yeah, market buying and market selling is great, but it can be a lot more risky for a lot of people, especially when you can't stop out. So once you have things like trade or version 3 of Uniswap, I think is going to have stops and limit orders and stuff. once you have that, I don't see the need, especially with Uniswap and Mooniswap. All these guys have lots of liquidity now. I think that's why you're seeing CZ and everyone just lists everything, because they're threatened heavily right now, because they realize people don't really need to do it. They don't need to go on their platforms for liquidity at this point. And yeah, and this KuCoin hack is just another reason for why people should be, keeping their coins off of exchanges in their own wallets. Like, I've been training a lot of people to like use their own MetaMask. Why are you keeping all your USDT on an exchange? Put it in your MetaMask. You can hold it there. It's yours. You can back up your keys. You can put them in 2 different places. Your seed keys, for example. And if you ever have anything happen, if your house burns down, you have it in another place. So you're always going to have that. And if KuCoin could as well, they say they have an insurance fund, but if these projects didn't come together and didn't say, hey, we're going to basically do decentralization and, reverse what happened, because I don't personally feel that's really decentralization at all. What they've done is like, basically, okay, we're going to reissue new coins. It's cool, but it's also what split Ethereum originally, was this whole parity hack. So
it also ruined Steam with Justin Sun and their whole, when you give exchanges a large amount of power in terms of holding a large sum of a coin, you now can control that ecosystem. And that's a dangerous thing for people who are supporting that, especially financially.
I agree. And so with KuCoin, a lot of people really like that exchange. Everyone said, oh, it's so hard to like get your money off because you have to do this code and you only have 30 seconds and you have to do this other code and you have to do Google FA. But they still, like, it seemed like it's too easy, and how they moved all those funds out that fast, it just seemed like they're not responsible. And I'm glad I didn't have a lot of money on KuCoin, because I always, like with centralized exchanges, I keep them a little bit on each, a little bit spread out. So if I need to trade, I have capital on them. But yeah, don't ever put all your crypto on an exchange on one, spread it out, and then keep most of your capital off exchange if you can. Like, as a trader, it's harder for us, all of us, we have to keep coins, unless we're going to, every single time we go on exchange to trade, we're putting it on and off. But it seems like the space in centralized exchanges until this KuCoin hack was actually getting a lot better. We hadn't heard of a crazy hack all year until this happened. But
the Binance hack was earlier this year, and we still haven't gotten a reasonable answer for either of their 2 hacks. And on top of that, you hear KuCoin had just recently signed up for liquidity insurance on their coins. So, how far can we trust these centralized entities who are not above, designing potentially sophisticated operations to liquidate their own funds? I trust none of them.
I trust none of them either. And I think if you actually look at data, almost every single one, even Mt. Gox, was an inside job. Like, yes, you could say that's tin hat, but I don't think it's tin hat at all. I think it's way too convenient. And you have to trust a person, or would you rather trust yourself? That's the difference between decentralized and centralized. I can trust myself, or I can trust another entity. Some people, old school, probably rather have their stuff on a centralized exchange. Guys like us are trying to usher in that new wave. And I think that's why we're all here. This is what we're trying to help people understand. It's about control of your own assets, your own funds, and no one can take them away from you. The government can't freeze them. They're yours. So that's my opinion on the KuCoin hack. Don't trade on a centralized exchange if you don't have to. And with things like trade and all these other new assets and new ways that we can actually use, these instruments, I don't see why, after we can put limits and stop losses and everything on a decentralized exchange, why we really even need a centralized exchange at that point. It's also cheaper. So you win every way, other than Ethereum, obviously.
Yeah. And then Pedro, your thoughts on the KuCoin hack?
Yeah, obviously, I agree with both you guys. I mean, not your keys, not your coins, obviously. So keep most of your funds out of exchanges. That's just the best practice. I think in terms of KuCoin, I've never used it, so I don't know if it's trustable or not. But again, I wouldn't put most of my funds in exchanges. Only the money that I want to trade. Apart from that, I think. Another problem, I'm not going to say problem, but, as Coach K was saying, we're talking about decentralization because, like, for example, Ocean and a bunch of the other protocols that got hacked, they literally stopped the contracts and, froze funds. So I think most people were aware of that in terms of Tether, but now I think they'll start to realize that most coins are not really decentralized, because if something happens, something bad, or that's something that goes against what the company wants, maybe they can just freeze funds, that's it, no problem. So I'm not sure about the decentralization aspect of it, because I think that the hack kind of showed a bit of a dark side of some coins, basically, at least ones that were built over Ethereum, or coins that people thought that were decentralized. And I think that's something that we're going to start to see more and more. And again, I think it's the hack is it's about incentives, right? It's like when we pay fees to the miners. The reason that we pay fees to the miners is so that they don't double spend, right? One could think of it like that. So I think the KuCoin hack it could be an inside job. I think it might be true that most hacks are inside jobs, or at least that would make sense, because the guys working there should have easier access to the to making withdrawals and such. So it could be, but again, don't keep your funds at exchanges so that you don't suffer big losses, basically. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Pedro. Pedro has a huge fan base in the comments. Bill.
So one thing I was thinking about this. So Binance coin, when it first came out, everyone was like, what the heck is this? Multi-Coin Capital liked it, and then it went from $2 to 40. And then I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day, and this is before the hack. And I was like, these decentralized exchanges, their tokens, their value is, I don't know, they're nebulous, but these value propositions from these decentralized exchanges are so compelling relative to the centralized exchanges that if you look at the price of these things, how much they could theoretically go up if it became an investment theme, I'm like, you have to pay attention to it. Now, I know there's probably ways to value it, but I'm just looking at it going, God, if this is the future, you've got to look at this. And then when it comes to the hack, I was like, wow. So they hacked it, and then somebody came in and printed tokens and replaced everybody's money. And I was like, gee, does that sound familiar? And we always have a joke on the Token Metrics show where I say, oh, that was just like back in 1998 when a quant fund blew up. And then Ian rolls his eyes and laughs because our whole viewing audience wasn't born yet. But this whole idea of like printing stuff and handing it out just because there was losses or a hack is something from legacy, which I thought we were trying to get away from. So that's my take on KuCoin.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Matty.
Yeah, I just wanted to add two additional things to the context of the conversation of, the next stage, and shout out to Michael Chen for really drilling this into my head, is that, you can have CertiK or QuantStamp or wherever you want audit your contract. It can be public for 4 years, but unless you have insurance on it, it means nothing, because audited and open source does not mean bulletproof, right? So if we're going to have billions of dollars on decentralized exchange liquidity contracts, they need to have insurance on them in some sort of manner. And that's what these big exchanges are providing, quote unquote, providing right now, is some sort of insurance with some sort of fund, wherever that's coming from, mainly with Binance. But KuCoin says they have one as well. And the other thing I think that was the buried headline of this entire thing was that people were talking about how Tether can just take back the USDT that was taken from KuCoin. So what does that mean when you have $15 billion under asset, that one company can be a centralized failure to crypto by just recalling a bunch of money? That's an external threat that we're not even talking about today for an exchange that pretty much has been irrelevant for the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I also found it pretty much nerve-wracking that all these different projects are basically doing swaps or with Tether of using money. I mean, with Tether, we kind of already knew that, but I think people kind of forget that Tether has that ability, because Tether is the most used stablecoin still. So the fact that they can just freeze funds pretty much by just pushing a button is not really decentralized. And I think that that's also why DeFi has taken off. I think, so me and myself, frankly, I've not used centralized exchanges in a while. I try to avoid them because everything nowadays to me is Uniswap or basically not your keys, not your coins. If I have to go into an exchange, I hate it because even the convenience, like DeFi has really taken off because now anybody can just open up MetaMask and boom, done, right? One push to trade, very, very easy. Now centralized exchanges are becoming, they're adding additional friction. And now when you add on the fact that you can now get hacked and not your keys, not your coin, and all these other centralized entities are beginning to get bigger and bigger in crypto, I think it becomes tougher for people who believe in the ethos of DeFi and the ethos of owning their own keys, because there has to come a point where I think the community has to decide what to do. Like, do they go fully centralized and stop preaching about not your keys, not your coins, or do they go all in on DeFi and Uniswap becomes the biggest exchange and people don't look back at centralized exchanges?
Chaos theory would dictate that there is no resolution. One is an infinite source versus another who's a structured source. And there's never a resolution with that. You're never going to get that out of crypto. There's going to be people who want centralization. There's going to be people who want structure, and there's going to be people who understand that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, so kind of like yin and yang in a way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, like, you know, you have, let's say, $500,000 of assets and you have to control those assets yourself. And what happens if you make a mistake or you do something wrong and you lose all those assets and you have no insurance because there is no insurance for your own MetaMask wallet, for example. So there is a risk there. And I think there's a lot of people, maybe through education, through helping people understand this, you know, that'll start to change. But I think that's not going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. It's going to take a long time for people to really understand, or a major event, a black swan event or something, where people like realize how corrupt and how messed up the world really is, and like how the financial systems really work and how inflated they are. And when that bubble bursts, maybe that will be the point where people wake up. But it's going to be quite an interesting ride for a lot of us that are here. And I think all of us that are educating people about how to do this and why they should, we're going to help a lot of people when that happens, because they're going to be ready and they're going to be set up for it. Even if they have only some of their assets decentralized in their possession, I think that will be good, because if we had another Great Depression, I mean, banks aren't going to bail you out. Insurance companies aren't going to bail you out. They're not going to have money either.
Banks are going to take your things. They're not going to give you anything. they're gonna
right. Actually, I was going to mention there's a country called Cyprus a while ago. They did what's called a bail-in. Okay, which meant they went into your bank account and just took 10% to make their government solvent. Yeah. So MetaMask can help with that or stop that.
All right. Yeah, so the audience has voted, and pretty much in landslide, not your keys, not your coins is what people think. All right, thank you for everyone, and tell us what you think down in the comments below.
We have some smart people.
Number 2 was love the way they handled it. That's shocking. was that before or after we found out that their auditing services let things go by for 5 hours?
All right, so let's go to the question and see what we have here.
Maybe Matty, what they mean is they loved how the projects handled it, even though that's really not.
Yeah, they love the extensive play-by-play on their live stream. That was super awkward for like an hour.
All right, so question from the audience so they want to hear our thoughts on Flamingo Finance, the cross-chain Uniswap built on Neo. Okay, so I haven't heard too much about this. All I heard was their launch was a failure, to my understanding. I'm not sure if anybody here has been following that, right? But I think they had to either freeze the contract or something was wrong, and they had to like redo everything. That's my understanding.
I think Matty would know exactly from a technical point, but it was like they didn't enable some part of the contract, and like literally it just didn't work. And like you're talking about something they hyped for like months, and they come out and they completely fall flat on their face. So it was.
I think the question was read wrong. It was, is Neo ever going to come back from the grave? And the answer is no. So we'll probably move on to the next.
I would agree with that as well. And I think Neo is just trying to kind of get the DeFi dust to sprinkle on it.
They're so far behind the curve. They've been behind the curve ever since they rebranded to AntShare. Ethereum is the clear leader in any sort of smart contract technology. And people who want to build with Ethereum are the ones who are excelling, like Polkadot, not Neo, who, the only thing that's relevant with Neo is Neo Global Capital, and that's it. Shout out to Roger Lim, a friend of mine over there.
Good friend of ours too.
Yeah.
No, actually, I find it pretty surprising, right? Because Neo Global Capital, most of their investments are in the Ethereum space.
Yeah, they shifted. Yeah, they shifted over to Ethereum. I mean, there was a number of projects that were raising money on Neo that we remember from 2017, 2018, but they saw the writing on the wall too, and follow where the money goes, obviously. So that should tell you a lot about it.
Yeah, and that's kind of a conflict of interest because the money is supposed to build Neo, right? I mean, honestly, they have some long-term plan to bring everything full house, but I mean, at that point, it seems like they're really just investing in Ethereum.
Yeah, I told my research analyst a few weeks before anything was even came out. So we were going through the yield farming phases, and we were doing everything on sushi forks and all that stuff, and making tons of money. And I said, don't be surprised within 2 weeks you see a Neo farm go up, and same with Binance. But Binance was the first time I installed the custom MetaMask setup for Binance Chain. It might be the first time that a lot of us even cared to even know or use what Binance Chain is, right? And I always tell people that sometimes the things that make you the most money are the hardest things that require you to do extra research and extra steps to take it. Because when people don't take those steps, they'll FOMO in because they missed out. Oh, well, how do I do this now? This thing's going up 50x. Let me get in now. I'm like, well, people who prepare themselves early and are able to take the extra steps for things like that are going to make a lot of money. And what happens? The first 3 yield farming plays that come out on Binance go ballistic, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see some of that happen on Neo. And at the end of the day, one of blockchain's biggest use cases is people wanting to make money. So if Neo can find a way to do that, then we'll be eating crow. But until that happens, it's useless.
All right. Anybody with any other thoughts on Flamingo Finance or Neo? No? Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go on to the next question. Okay, this is a very interesting question. Let me bring it up so everyone can see my screen. Hi guys, hope you're all doing good. Could Kusama surpass Polkadot? Because all the new features are implemented in Kusama. So I mean, my take is no, because Kusama is meant to be pretty much the testnet version of Polkadot. So in terms of wide adoption, I don't think that would be possible because it's hard for testnet to get more adoption than the mainnet. Maybe I understand the 2 projects wrong. I haven't looked too much into Kusama, but that's kind of my high level understanding of it. Polkadot we have looked into. So, I mean, I think the hype in Kusama has mainly been just the frenzy and pretty much traders speculating. But long term, yes, there'll be a use case for people wanting to test applications on Kusama before launching them on Polkadot, which could be maybe a bigger audience. Maybe Polkadot is kind of more like the VIP. Then everyone kind of dabbles on the testnet or Kusama. But me personally, yeah. I'm bullish on Polkadot over Kusama.
So, we sit here today looking back historically of how long Litecoin was present in the top 10 market cap. So, Kusama brands themselves as an exact identical replica of Polkadot. Litecoin never overtook Bitcoin, but it was definitely a major financial investment. If you had invested in Litecoin, you probably would have made a lot of money, or gotten Litecoin from whatever their fork was, I guess. And if you had gone through multiple different cycles with Litecoin, you would have made a ton of money. So Kusama, if Polkadot goes off, which is now at, I think, number 5 last time I checked, then it wouldn't be surprising if we saw some sort of top 20 market cap on something Kusama related. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, they're all in top 20 market caps. I see no difference here.
I literally thought the exact same thing. I was like, it's like Litecoin for Bitcoin, but it's on DOT, but they do have stuff running. I mean, DOT's not finished yet, right? It's not completely up and running. So they may have that little bit of a first mover advantage, and that's why they've done so. I mean, I remember buying it at $2.50 and there was no liquidity and being like, this is a bad buy. This is stupid. I'm buying a testnet coin.
That was the IOU, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about buying that. I just wasn't sure what it was. I'm like, no thanks.
I had no idea. But my buddy Ricky Fundamentals, he was like, dude, this is going to be big. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I'm just telling you. And he's like so good at fun. He does nothing but charting, but all fundamentals. And he's like bang on all the time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to, you know, Ricky too, Matty.
Ricky 50 chain or whatever.
Man. Yeah. Irish. And so he was just like, yo, man, you got to get into Kusama. I was like, all right, I'll give it a punt. And I put it in at 250 and I just watched it go up. And I was like, this doesn't even make any sense. But then he was like telling me about, you know, Dot's not ready. Kusama is pretty much ready. You can start building on it right now. And that's what that whole Bondly finance. That's a project trying to merge the Kusama and Polkadot blockchain into one that Ian Friend's working with or promoting in the Ethereum network. So it's quite interesting to see.
Is that bonded or Bondly?
Bondly. There's like Bondly, bonded. Yeah.
There's like 50. There's like bonded finance, Bondly.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think that, you know, all these projects, it depends on what they do. Like, you know, if they come out and build some really cool stuff on Kusama, it could do really well. But I think Dot has Web3 and all, they have a lot of power players behind them. So I think longer term, that definitely will I agree with Ian, overtake.
Well, they're complementary to Ethereum, right? They're not replacing anything. I think that's like batch transaction advantage, right? So they'll never pass Ethereum, but they'll make Ethereum better.
All right. So some people in the comments are saying, Joey says Kusama is detaching from Polkadot. Community is starting to support the idea. All right. Bill, could you maybe chart Polkadot and Kusama just to kind of see where the short-term trends are going?
Yeah. So I've got Kusama's KSM, right?
Yep. Yes.
So I've got this up here, and this is what the Elliott wave guys call a series of ones and twos, right? So somebody's taking this seriously. So you have a leg up and then you have this really deep correction. Okay. Watch everybody getting stopped out right here. Okay. This is 89-minute chart. So this is probably smart money coming in. Okay. And then you have, it happens again where they have kind of a rally. Okay. And you can see they're down here again. So this Kusama looks like, you know, it looks like people want it. And it's kind of interesting. It's billed as a Litecoin, but as I understand it, the Bitcoin's not fully working yet. So it's got kind of an advantage there. And people are looking for things where everyone else is not holding a bag into the end of the year. Right. So that could be one of those plays, right, where people can buy a dip, but it's not so big that they got to worry about all bag holders into the end of the year.
Now, how about Polkadot from a TA perspective?
All right, let me take a look at Polkadot. Just give me a second to find it.
Okay, no worries.
It needs to break out still.
Well, I was gonna preface it by saying that, you know, when you're a top 10 coin, your upside is limited versus the natural movements of the market, right? So Kusama looks to be well poised to have more upside, obviously, while Polkadot's already kind of capped to a small gain over market volatility.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the everybody owns it kind of game, right? So this is like the 89-minute version of Dot. It looks a lot like Kusama. The only thing that I would note is that, you know, this bothers me about Polkadot, right? I know it's great, but you got a lot of people inside this rectangle that got real hyped up about buying the dip, and they got hurt. They got hurt. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you bought it here, here, and here. And this is, like he said, he's not a small coin, right? This is a big play. So
there's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of marketing built into that emotion right there too. You know, Polkadot was being released. The IOUs were coming out from Huobi. I'm sure there was a lot of selling pressure coming from the OTC markets because it had been locked up for like 2 years. A lot of negative sentiment on that side. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's going to take a while to kind of shake off those cobwebs and start seeing some natural market cycles.
Right. Yeah. And of course it's like a contrarian idea with Kusama, right? It's like, oh, well, it's like Litecoin, therefore it's terrible. My joke about Litecoin is the only reason to own it is that no one likes it. right? So Kusama, if Kusama's like Litecoin and it's this like little brother that nobody knows about yet, then maybe you got to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm firing something big, I think, after this call.
And then Pedro, your thoughts on Polkadot and Kusama?
You're muted.
It's hard to hear you. I think the volume is low.
It's like
no, I think your volume, we hear something, but it's very low. It's very faint. Maybe the audio or something turned down.
microphone died. Like is it plugged in? I don't know.
Yeah.
No?
I hear something, but it's super faint. Maybe like there's a dial or switch on the audio on your headset or the computer. Okay, so maybe just try dropping off and hopping back in or something. Not sure why that's happening.
Idea. We would like
Okay,
to
all right.
podcast.
Go ahead, Coach K. Anybody else with any other comments on Polkadot or Kusama?
I think that people are going to look at a lot of these projects coming out of Polkadot and, like the Polka swaps and stuff, and they're going to see huge, massive upside. I mean, the market's changed. We could talk about that too, how we went from raising $25 to $50 million in a project to raising $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million for projects. And the massive amount of upside is huge. And now there's liquidity in the market. You couldn't keep the markets liquid with $50 million projects and having everything be a $50 million project. It's not possible. So I think that these new projects have a lot of promise. And, Polkadot's really hot right now. And anything that's built on Polkadot, everyone wants. Polka Starter, Polka Swap, Polka. So
Polka Starter? That's the project?
Yeah, I invested in Polka Starter. I invest in anything that's less than $3 million and has the word Polkadot in it. So fire those bullets away. But Kusama, you look at Litecoin right now sitting at 3 billion at number 12. Tron's at number 15 with 1.8 billion, 250 million market cap. What's stopping this thing from getting a nice 5 to 10x on some blue chip low volatility? It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right. So to our audience, tell us what you think. Are you more bullish on Kusama or Polkadot? Down in the comments below. All right. Let's go on to the next question.
Do you have Pedro? Pedro, are you back with us? Can we hear you?
Hello, Pedro?
No, still no audio.
We're still having audio issues. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Check the Zoom settings. Maybe the slider was turned down. Okay, so next question. Can you take a look at Ring? So anybody want to volunteer to do TA on Ring? Whether
I think we
Coach K, Matty.
And take a hard pass on that.
Hard pass, okay.
Hard pass.
The
only coach on the outside.
There's Ring X on Bitfinex. I don't know if it's the same one. There's Ring and K-Ton project.
There's this Darwiner.
That's the one yeah.
Darwiner,
I think is the one.
Top 250. Is that 250 right now? Looks like it came out recently in July. Ran up with the rest of the DeFi stuff until the 1st, and it's been syncing with the market. I think it's actually better if maybe we take a look at the website. Looks like it has some sort of Asian influence, as it has what looks like to be Japanese symbols in the upper right hand. It says it's the internet.
I can pull that up.
Internet of Tokens. It's an open cross-chain bridge protocol based on Substrate. So there you go. There, I mean, literally, you can just say, okay, the market cap's 20 million and it's on Polkadot, so it's probably overinflated right now. Looks like it's on MXC. It's on Huobi actually. So I wonder if it's part of their educational pilot program, because I doubt that they were able to afford Huobi with this market cap. They don't even meet the minimum requirements to get listed. So that would have.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, exchanges aren't charging as much as they used to, and for some projects, they're not even charging at all, right? Kind of as CZ mentioned on a tweet before he had to take that down. To stay in business, they have to list the projects people want.
So here's a counter argument to that, right? I 100% agree with you. Just speaking with FTX and others on a fairly frequent basis for projects in our incubator, we understand that they're willing to drop the thresholds that they would normally hold. to bring on and cut through to some of the volume that the DEXs are taking from them. So I'm seeing that competition happen. Where I'm not seeing that competition happen is from Huobi specifically. Huobi seems to be kind of taking a more reserved step back approach and saying, we're still going to keep to our business strategy because we believe that people will still value us. But they do have, some of these programs, like I think it might not have been Gather, but I forget who it was, recently went through Huobi that was like, wow, how did that get on there type of deal? And they were like, yeah, we went through their educational thing. But, I see FTX mainly because their team is so adaptable and so good and they're free, right, to a degree. Then
to list?
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward about that. And then Binance is very aggressive right now too. And I mean, KuCoin's kind of just, I want to see what happens with BitMax, right? I looked at BitMax and KuCoin. I'm still waiting for my tokens. Obviously, they've been locked up forever for like 3 years now with their exchange token. But I looked at BitMax and KuCoin as the same thing. I still think that George Cao is like ruthless and a savage, right? So I just like love people like that, the head of exchanges. So I'm seeing KuCoin now. You're on the outside, BitMax, you're on the in, right? And Binance and these other exchanges have been pretty hard on U.S. citizens in terms of like, saying that they're going to geofence them or whatever. So you have to go through certain hurdles. You don't have to do that with BitMax right now. So who's going to pick up the pieces when the centralized exchanges are trying to, onboard certain players? Yeah. I think they're pretty.
I mean, I think good. I'll be pretty concerned if Huobi is still charging in the market. I mean, projects like Yearn Finance, Sushi, those I know probably did not pay, right? Because Andre Cronier said they
greenlit those projects like everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. Cool. Go ahead, Coach K.
I was saying they have money to be made from the fees. These guys charge and make most of their money from fees, not from listing the project. So why would you spend all that extra manpower and time to try to hustle with them? And if you're going to make X amount of a huge amount of multi-X's just from listing it and then making your seems like a little bit of a fee when you're on Binance because you're using Binance token, for example, but that shit adds up really quickly.
Binance brings branding with it, and out of all the exchanges, I think Binance has the biggest branding effect when they list somebody. But yeah, I mean, there's a big far between YFI or Sushi or anyone like of that nature, because their rise was just so parabolic that the amount of fees being generated, there was no time for discussion, nor was there anyone to discuss with, barring any conspiracy theories with the Sushi saga. But Darwina Network, obviously different league, definitely not. Definitely their volume last 24 hours was 6 million. No one's putting them on for fees for sure.
Now, Bill, could you maybe pull up the TA on Ring?
Yes.
On Red?
Okay, so this is super interesting to me. So, I mean, obviously, our panelists know more about the nuts and bolts of something like this than I would. But from a visual, right, it looks like, it was down, obviously, right?
Oh, man.
But then somebody pumped it, and these candlesticks looks like an artificial pump. And then they dumped it and everyone just completely gave up right here, right? So this is, I'm going to pump it so I can dump it. And then people gave up. And then once they gave up, once it started to move back the other way, it actually started to move like a normal market that somebody might actually want. So, I know there's a deeper discussion to be had, but this looks like somebody panicking or creating a pump so they can get out. So whatever this was, it feels like capitulation has occurred, and that's either because it's garbage or because somebody panicked.
Was that, maybe Coach can remember this, was Darwina on Ivan on Tech's newsletter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, might have been. I think somebody also mentioned Ivan on Tech had an interview with the lead developer.
Pico also mentioned him too. They mentioned.
Yeah, there was a lot of front running going on price in terms of those exclusive newsletter releases and stuff like that he had to come out and apologize for. So I wouldn't be surprised if that pump you saw, you said it was artificially created. It was probably early people getting in front of the news.
Yeah. Pedro, are you back? Is the audio sorted out? No, we still cannot hear you. Okay.
Weird.
All right.
Try
Well,
microphone or something.
all right. So thank you everyone for those comments on Ring. Tell us what you think down in the comments below. So on to the next one. Okay. So actually, how about this? This is a question we get all the time. So I think with a new cast of panels, it will be good to kind of, especially Matty, to have you kind of chime in on this. So what are your top projects at the moment? Obviously not financial advice, right? But projects that you're really excited about.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I was very transparent with my community. With my TA, I'm very big on waiting for the signal and then executing on the pullback. Some sort of retest, usually on daily VWAP closes. I think crypto has a big symmetry with daily VWAP closes in terms of congregation of multiple daily VWAP closes to see where that volume weighted average price was coming in at. And then once there's a confirmation, or playing between multiple coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin, like for example, when we crashed down, Bitcoin broke its bottom, Ethereum crashed down to its bottom, right? So if there was a pullback, maybe you could have gotten a better price on Ethereum where most of my assets were. But I liquidated everything between 380 and 400 just to try and buy back lower, mostly on Ethereum because I'm way more bullish on that than Bitcoin. But if I had to point out a project, obviously it's right there. Don't buy rope, not financial advice. But I mean, that's my largest holding, like over 30K worth. I have a nice stack of uni. I think the craziest thing about rope, by the way, just to go back, is that I was literally airdropped a bunch of it for signing up to their airdrop for like 500 people. And like that airdrop is now worth like over 20K. And then I picked up another 10K for personal. So yeah, I'm really bullish on that. The way that meme went off, I think it's going to go off in a similar fashion. I'm behind the XBTC project. I think there's a lot of exciting things coming up over the next week with their mint program, which is very similar to the Geyser program that Ampleforth had during July, which was a massive 30-day positive rebase cycle. So I think that's cool. Big fan of Uni token right now. I still think it's massively undervalued. I'm holding a stack of that. And notice how the stacks that I am holding after liquidating are uncorrelated from the market right now. They're benefiting from a lot of marketing hype, a lot of fresh news that's coming in, and they're also illiquid with the exception of Uni on Uniswap specifically. Other than that, Coach K mentioned trade. That's getting released daily, and I think that's cool. And yeah, I think there's a couple other plays that aren't worth mentioning. They're more just like speculative. So that's where most of my holdings are at the moment in terms of liquid.
All right, and Coach K.
So I said last week, I think 2 weeks ago. So I'm big on sharing. Like I said, I said I heard inklings that they're going to be on the BSN, and they ended up being on the BSN a week later. They have more coming, bigger announcements that I've been told, but I'm not going to repeat because they would get mad at me. And there's obviously RSR. Someone was mentioning Venezuela and how they can't get US dollars, but RSR and RSV they can use basically as a US dollar. So we see that in Venezuela and Argentina already, and I think that's going to expand to Brazil next. And we're just all waiting for mainnet. So I'm really patient with RSR and just holding and have waiting for mainnet to get tokens. And I'm not really planning on selling them. I think that it has a really high potential to do really well long term. And then in terms of like fringe assets, like I'm looking at things that are NFT based. Like farming is very interesting, but I want to find things that are more sustainable, stuff that's not crazy. But like I got a bunch of guys that are like really into it, and they got into Core Vault, C Vaults, and it did like a insane pump. And I think there's all these like Orb did another one who went from like $0 to like $40,000 in like a day. It's just insane what these things are doing. So if you're looking for speculative stuff, look in the DeFi space, things that have high risk, high reward. If you have the appetite for that, and you could turn 1 ETH into 40 ETH in a day sometimes. So it's worth taking a little dabble if it's something that you like to do. But it is gambling. I call it gambling because it's what it feels like. It feels like I'm playing poker or blackjack. But those are fun things. And in terms of like big projects, the majors, I think Litecoin, I think like Neo, I think a lot of these, like I was saying, I did a video this week that it's better to get rid of those bags, honestly, even if you're at a loss at some point, because wait for the next pump, get out, and put your stuff in new, shiny, fun, exciting projects. Even if they're not going to do really well long term, a lot of these projects that I'm going into, I'm exiting fully and in profit from like 25%. And then what happens after that? I get a monthly paycheck, a weekly paycheck, because I'm in like 30 different IPOs. So yeah, some of them are going to fail. But like we've all seen that, we've all been through that cycle before. But right now, I think it's starting, and it's a great opportunity. If you hold bags that are going to do maybe 1x, 2x, you could do a 20x with a Gather or 20x with a Mantra, a Rio's coming out today. So there's lots of opportunities that I think are a little bit better from a trading perspective than holding on a bag, for sure.
A lot of crypto millionaires being born right now.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, especially with yield farming but I would say mainly Wells, but even retail investors and traders who are getting into a DeFi and yield farming, they've been making bank. Bill, your top projects at the moment?
All right. So first it's Ethereum, because I think if there's a problem with the election and there's a problem with stocks or bonds, that's going to wind up hurting Bitcoin, because you're going to have tax loss selling. So I would prefer ETH over Bitcoin for sure. And then I think there's Uniswap, right? I just think it's so interesting as a theme, right? It's so interesting. It's like NASDAQ a long time ago. If you could have somehow invested in NASDAQ, that's what I think of every time I look at Uniswap. Okay. And then if we're going to talk about crazy casino stuff, there's this XETH thing that I've been looking at, right? So as I understand it, somebody jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. Like you buy it and they give you more of it, and it's connected to ETH, but they don't take it away from you on a rebase if it goes higher, right? So if they come out with ETH 2.0, or if Vitalik makes a tweet, or, does something, hint, hint, says something, right, that gets ETH going, particularly into next year, I was wondering if this XE thing isn't the casino play to be in, particularly if there's like election uncertainty. So if you like, Big Brother, maybe you try Little Brother. That's what I was thinking.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so go ahead, Coach K.
Sorry to interrupt. I find that so interesting because both myself and Matty went into XBTC. And this is something very interesting, because if you're not a really big believer in BTC keeping that dominance, you make profit from the dominance of altcoins versus Bitcoin. And it's an interesting concept. And, I think this is a proper way to do rebasing. Going on against the dollar doesn't really make as much sense for Ample. That's the one piece I think that they failed on. Mm-hmm. This actually makes a lot of sense. You can actually bet against Bitcoin and against the whole market against Bitcoin. I think it's something that should be looked into for sure, just to understand it as a derivative. It's something new and shiny, and it's like buying, S&P 500 versus Bitcoin. It's basically what it is, but instead of an S&P.
Yeah, I mean, so shout out to the incubator that I'm working at. TDeFi, we were able to incubate XBTC. I remember meeting with Atash when they were still in an Anon project, kind of convincing them that, hey, step out of the dark, because you have something bigger here. Their vision and their branding is what speaks to me the most. I think that they look at, Ample as opening up the Pandora's box for rebasing as a technology. And now, like, literally you're having this big explosion. I think eventually there will be a saturation of that market, but what Ample and Social Capital at the moment, or not Ample, XBTC and Social Capital at the moment kind of look at is that you can create this suite of rebase technologies that, for me personally, when we put the cards on the table, market cap really drives a lot of the early action. When things slow down, you may see more of a closer correlation with whatever asset is trying to peg to, in terms of people using this Ample like game theory on either side of it. I think there needs to be a centralized presence, though, because it seems that what incentivizes markets is these like geyser programs and stuff like that, which is why XBTC short term is pretty bullish. When you stake liquidity, and this is a very important concept that my research analyst had to kind of drive home on me, is that when you stake liquidity into a Uniswap contract, you are not long the asset, you are short on volatility. because if you have a lot of volatility, whether the price shoots up or whether the price shoots down, you still lose money either way. People don't understand that. They think that if they stake money into a liquidity contract on Uniswap and then the price goes up $5 instantly, they thought they made money. No, you lost money. You're a market maker, right? You are long, short, or you're short on volatility, because if there's no volatility, you're making fees, right? So what does rebasing style coins have? A lot of volatility. Once a day, they rebase in terms of massive market movement, right? So that's why a lot of these coins put up geyser programs to essentially put up something on their website where they handle the liquidity yield and they offer you something to deal with your impermanent loss. So you're making more of the underlying asset, and then hopefully when it goes up, you can liquidate your position. That incentive is there. So that needs to be talked about when you're talking about rebase as a technology. But XBTC is kind of one of the first of its kind to get really solid branding around itself and say, hey, look, we can create a suite of assets that are derivative-like or index-like, right? And once we get past the initial volatility in terms of where the market cap settles and the price discovery happens, then we can have a larger conversation of whether this rebase as a technology can be used in terms of a game theory solution for us to hedge on either side of the markets and get expansive opportunities to hedge against certain markets, like Bill was speaking to. So I think it's really exciting times early on. I didn't even really understand the concept of Ample when Richie, their business dev, pitched it to me in 2019 at Consensus. I was like, well, you're talking about some sort of game theory where people just, here's the weird thing. People misunderstand. They pitched it to me at that time as a stable coin. They said in 20 years, this will be the first on-chain derivative stablecoin. People chastise me when I tell them that now because they're, oh, that's not what Ampleforth is. You misunderstand what it is. Well, that's what marketing is, right? They said, look, in 20 years, enough people will be betting on either side of it that the arbitrage will essentially wipe itself out and it'll be worth $1, and that's worth something. It is worth something if that actually happens, but who knows, right? So yeah, and that's kind of my small rant on rebase, but I'm super bullish on as a technology long-term.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I think Ampleforth, from a pure code perspective, our development team likes it. They think it's very innovative. As we all know, lots of projects have tried to basically couple the Ampleforth model with the elastic supply from projects like Yam Finance, Rebase, and others. Now, I haven't looked much into XBTC, but actually a mutual friend of ours, Neymar, did kind of try to get me to take a look at it. And I'm not saying the project is not going to do well, because we know projects can always do well in crypto, but what kind of, I guess, was the area that kind of raised my eyebrow? The entire team was all marketing. Pretty much all either affiliate marketing or just digital marketing. Didn't see as many developers on their team website and all that. Not sure if that's just based on how it's framed or marketed, but it seems it was very marketing heavy.
Yeah,
right?
so to answer, and that's fair criticism in my opinion, because I look for the same thing. We have to understand the origin of XBTC, right? The two founders were originally kind of involved with Statera, and we need to understand, kind of going back to our initial conversation when we first started the live stream, which is that there's a large growth in the Anon community right now, mainly coming from the backlash of the US regulatory system that happened over the last 2 years. So this team originally wanted to release an Anon project. We convinced them to kind of come out of the shadows and say, hey, you could be something more legitimate than that. Their development team, on the other hand, was not as receptive to that. So they do have a CTO. I believe he's coming out either soon or already has come out. I have to check with the team. And also their other developer has been working hard behind the scenes with what they're doing. There was a lot of changes made to the initial Ampleforth code as well in terms of rebase, because I had to go through all the pain points with the Zokio contract auditing, right? With the failing test suites and stuff like that, which you're going to have when you're changing such a large large test suites of that nature. So yeah, I can attest that their development team is present, but I understand the criticism as well from an outside investor. Especially after what happened with Chef Nomi, right? for sure. And the same thing with SoFi as well, right? With their Oracle services kind of going kaput on them, which was a big thing for us, was locking down and making sure that the Oracle was of the utmost importance right now, with Teller. So yeah, we made sure that was number one priority. All right, awesome. And Bose, with any other comments?
Yeah, just one thing on this idea of rebasing. So when my legacy friends give me a hard time about crypto, I give them 2 facts. I go, do you know we have an interest rate system in crypto now? Crypto calls it DeFi, but we have cryptocurrency and we have an interest rate system. And this whole idea of rebasing, that's money supply management. Not necessarily done by a central bank, but when there's stress or something goes up, they add it. And when there's too much of it, they pull it out. Now, that legitimizes the space, right? It's old school economics. 3 years from now, people will go, oh yeah, the dawn of cryptocurrency was actually 2020 when they put in interest rates and money supply management. We had this conversation once about, oh, did I miss it? Like I should have been in it 5 years ago. No, it starts right now.
Yeah. The junk bonds will clear themselves out in terms of the farming. I find them just to be junk bonds, honestly. But when those leave, you're going to see, like I was saying earlier, a lot of legitimacy come into the space, and DeFi used for something that's real, like mortgages and different types of assets. And I'm really excited to see that. I think that'll be very interesting. As much as I love making money with these complete shit coins that have no use case at all, never going to give a crap about them. I'm just going to dump them on people that are dumb enough to buy them. At the same time, I really am excited about seeing on-chain assets that actually matter. We're starting to see, because the STO is going to take a couple more years probably, you're starting to see people tokenize assets but not actually holding them. You're buying into a derivative of an asset, which is quite interesting. Like Orbit, and there's Orbit that's doing that with stocks and crypto and housing and all this different stuff, where they're tokenizing it into a token which is linked to that asset, but it's not actually holding it, so it's not a security. And they have OpenDAO, which is doing that for real estate. These things are quite interesting to me, because I think they will bring real money into the space. And when I say real money, I mean trillions of dollars, not a few more billion.
Yeah, I think I told Ian a while back that I don't think I was ever going to be bullish on STOs, but I think maybe with some of the regulatory restrictions being lifted, maybe we'll see some sort of semi-retail STO market boom on crypto. That would be insane.
Yeah, STO is kind of that didn't go anywhere. But hopefully with the new
more
years. Yeah, I would say probably next year, right?
Right. STOs didn't make it, but they're going to tokenize collectibles. So,
yeah,
your NFTs is your new STO.
All right. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Back on the AMA here.
Is Pedro gone? Did he not come back?
Yeah. I think the audio issue wasn't working out. Okay, so next question. Are any of you guys yield farming? If so, what recommendations can you give us? Great question.
Yeah, let me step in here first, because I've literally been down the rabbit hole of yield farming to its fullest extent. When it initially started out, thank you, Coach. When it initially started out, all the whales were like, it's a big players game, XYZ or whatever. But when things started to ramp up and there was a lot of high upside, even smaller players were able to really capitalize on that. And I still kind of maintain the same sentiment that if you come out with something new and exciting and difficult, it will probably make money. You look at the evolution from YFI to Yam to sushi to kimchi, and forget what that YOLO one was. That was also somewhere in there as well. But there was a lot of failures too. Zombie, I mean, you can consider shrimp a failure to an extent, even though they tried to bring it back a few times. And I'm still pretty sure I have V1 spaghetti that I need to trade in somewhere. And I know some of these terms are a little foreign, but it got very saturated. Everyone was literally farming sushi clones left and right, every single food that you could think of that may get people excited. Some Trump coins mixed in. It got really saturated, and then one day we woke up and literally 33% to 50% of them were rugging people, right? So the general rule of thumb is that if it's a fork of something, do a check differ for the context of the code. Most of the good ones really only have the changing of the main variables in the in the later portion of the contract. It's not difficult to do. The other thing is that you want to make sure that these contracts are time locked. that they use the transfer ownership function. You can find that at the bottom of the Etherscan in additional details. It'll just say transfer ownership in the text doc. And I've also written up a lot of this. Yeah, go ahead.
So what software do you use to do the check differ? Is there a site in particular you
can just Google check differ, and there's one particularly that I use. Let's see, check diff. It'll be diffchecker.com. It's an online diff tool to compare two different types of text. And usually what I do is as soon as I see a yield farm come out, and by the way, I'm gonna pivot this to saying that yield farming is somewhat dead. But as soon as a yield farm comes out, I look at what it does specifically. If it has a GitHub with additional information, even better. I want to know why it's different than something else. What is its gamifiable features to it that's going to position me in the best case scenario? You have to understand that when looking at yield farming and looking at anything in investment, game theory is super critical. You really need to think outside the box. You need to think, what is my edge? Why is this different? What are the fundamentals inside of this? All of these questions are relevant when you're analyzing how you're even going to play this. What pair do I think that my opponents are going to be on that's going to have the lowest liquidity early on? Is this something that I'm willing to hold past the first 30 minutes to an hour? Is this something that I'm just going to flip out as soon as I see some sort of interest come on? The major rule that everyone knows is don't get high on your base supply. Never, ever, ever buy the base asset unless you think that there's a reason that you should be holding it. So one example of that may have been, an expanding supply that would take maybe 7 days for it to happen. Maybe it's better off, since there's not going to be a lot of sell pressure coming down on you, that you buy the base supply and then stake it. Maybe we're in the pre-sale, similar thing. You can just split your tokens in half for ETH and then sell that over there once the initial selling pressure happens. All of these are very relevant in terms of your analysis of what's happening with a yield farming play. Talked about Binance earlier, very difficult to do, a lot of different steps. I had to send money to Binance, get BUSD to send it to some weird custom node on my MetaMask. Who and how many people are actually doing that? Not many. They'll start doing it when they see people making money. End of story, right? But in terms of keeping yourself safe, because that's what the most important thing is you almost never want to stake liquidity on the underlying pair. You always want to stake it in some sort of safe contract. You want to make sure that you're looking in the check differ for two specific functions. You want to know what they're specifically doing with the liquidity provider function in terms of being able to transfer liquidity provider tokens from contracts. And you specifically want to know what they're doing with the mint function. If they have a mint function in the contract, that means that they can drain the liquidity pool, and that threatens you if you're a base supplier, meaning you're buying the actual token that they're farming out and then supplying it as liquidity provider on Uniswap. That's what threatens you. If you're a liquidity provider in just terms of, like, let's say USDT, ETH, or something like really stable or whatever, then transferring liquidity tokens is relevant to you. Now, you're looking for people, if you want to have low risk, you come in a little bit later, right? You don't have to be the first one through the door. Come in within 15 minutes and see that they've transferred the ownership of the contract that is the master chef contract or whatever. And you want to make sure that that has been transferred to a time lock contract and has been verified by Etherscan. What that does is it's a basic level contract that makes sure that all functions called by the owner's wallet will take 48 hours to execute on chain. Also realize that we're not here for the long game. Get in, get out. Most of these are highly inflatable. Most of them are dumping their stuff onto the things. The reason why I say yield farming is kind of pointless right now is because you had this big saturation. So wait for things to calm down, wait for eyes to go away somewhere else, and then analyze where those key plays are, what things that make them different. One of the big things right now that's still kind of low key that, Coach K and I were talking about a little bit earlier was that people are starting to look at yield farming in a way to somehow reward people with NFTs. They realize that the NFT hype is coming, whether it's real or not, it's coming. You're going to make people, I'm not going to say you're going to make money on it, but people think they're going to make money on it. I'm very big into anything NFT right now at the moment, just because I think value is subjective. I used to own a Ken Griffey Jr., non-circulating rookie card from 1994 with the Seattle Mariners. It was my favorite thing. I had it next to my bed at my grandparents' house when I went to sleep. There's some people who don't even watch baseball. Kind of think about it like that, right? Now you're talking about building a technology on top of it and an expanding ecosystem. That's very exciting. So people get excited about that stuff, and people think yield farming is such a huge thing, which it is. It provides less volatility in an ecosystem that needs incentive. Think about it like that from a very simple standpoint. People, when they provide liquidity, they're short on volatility. What can they do if volatility happens? It's not a good ecosystem if everyone's getting wrecked. So they need ways to be able to incentivize people to provide that on-chain volatility. Yield as a concept, not just yield farming, meaning like ripping a website and putting up some clone contract, but yield as a concept is very important in terms of being able to lower that volatility for what's happening. That's the DeFi ecosystem at a high level, 1,000 feet up, and that's where yield farm takes its place into the ecosystem.
Wow, great stuff, Matt. Yeah, people love it. So go ahead, Coach K.
No, it's just a great overview of like what people should be looking for, because it really doesn't matter, what the farm is. Honestly, like it doesn't matter what you're farming. Half the time, in my opinion, you can make money from complete garbage. So it really depends on getting in and looking to see if they can rug you or not. Like that's why the distexes and the unicrypts are pretty interesting, because they show you. But we've also seen that things like trust swap. Anyone who's been paying attention to that, what happened recently
with Batch,
they had a
team with that.
It was Hatch. Yeah, Jeff Kardisic went hard deep on shilling Hatch for the trust swap, and trust swap was supposed to do something specific of like rug proof stuff, and then Hatch essentially from an admin perspective like liquidated everything, right?
I think they minted a bunch of like all the tokens they could, and it just like completely screwed everyone out of their money, and now everyone's mad at them. But like it's not really his fault, you know what I mean? But things like that are still going to happen. So even if you are a good project or look like a good project, it can be bad. So yeah, I find like farming is just like a quick in and quick out. Maybe you can hold on some things a little bit longer. YFI, of course, you can hold for long term, but like, there's projects where you should probably just, farm it, get your money and get out and put it back into either Bitcoin, or if you do like stable coins, maybe DAI or RSR. So there's those opportunities that you should be looking at. And, you were saying that farming's dead. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that too.
Farming is a really unique way of distribution, but the farming that we've seen up until this point is like unlimited, and that's not feasible. But people are really big on governance too. I don't think everyone and their mother needs a governance token. It's extremely saturated right now in terms of like everyone's just trying to capitalize on a really fancy word that means that we're going to incentivize you to be part of our community to make money, which again, I go back to the same core tenets that one of crypto's biggest use cases is to make money. It's literally a community of tech enthusiasts mixed with degens who are looking to provide massive upside in an economy that doesn't meet our needs, right? For millennials and the generation below us, we look at a future that could be devoid of social security. We don't have the same safety nets that we have 60 plus. So we are more risk averse because we look at this paradigm that things are more bleak. So crypto is really appealing to us because it's a mixture of technology and high upside volatility. And, for things like yield farming and all of those things, they mix into that. But, back to what I was saying, yield farming looks at things from a governance perspective. What governance do you need and what does it benefit me? YFI is the first mover advantage for what a governance system for an $8 million company, right? But not everyone needs governance. Everyone's trying to distribute that governance fairly to people who are buying into the system. So that's the proposition that yield farming brings, is that you're buying into our community, you're buying into our system financially, and you're being rewarded with something that may have some value if we're successful. So
yeah, I mean, awesome stuff. I've not dabbled too much in yield farming, but the projects I have farmed, switch up, yams briefly for a few days. Now there's been lots of interest recently in the last week in pickle finance. Not sure if you guys have been looking into that one, but that one I think had one of the most liquidity.
It's one of the highest volume. Yeah, it's one of the highest volume coins on Uniswap right now. Over the 4-hour pool cycle, if you go to, I actually linked you a link earlier, Ian, the DEX tools. A lot of these Uniswap coins, you're gonna find their charting integration over on DEX tools. I have 5,000 DEX tools, so I can use their premium service. I think that is lacking in certain regards, but since the TradingView integration, I've been a lot happier with the product. It definitely beats out people like Astro, that's a little bit laggy, or ChartX, which is also extremely laggy, but they're having their own ICO right now or something like that. But the standard right now for Uniswap is DEX tools for trading stuff. And you can see on there Pickle's just absolutely crushing it. But again, it's just another one in the fad that's going on right now. Like same with Core, right? Core is basically you stake liquidity and then give it up forever in exchange of Core. And now it's just like everything's locked. So it's just going to keep going up and up and up. So at what point that's essentially just a Ponzi scheme, right? That's what a lot of people are saying. I'm not putting that on them. I don't like people coming in my chat and looking to hunt me down for saying things that I don't mean. But yeah, you know, so there's going to be a new one every day. Some of them will stick, some of them won't. Even Uni has its own yield thing going on with governance right now that you're going to be able to stake with liquidity mining, and same with 1inch and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, the proposition is please buy into my system so I can give you money, right? That's the proposition, and that'll keep happening until people stop making money. It is a somewhat external threat to Uniswap as a whole, because you want to be able to incentivize those lower liquidity pairs that are going to have high volatility. But the lower liquidity pairs will be fine. People who are bigger players who understand the mathematics behind the game, because Uniswap liquidity is not some easy concept to quantify into the things that I've talked about today. You know, those people are still going to be there because they see the net ROI. They're able to either leverage tools or leverage their experience to be able to do so, or even their capital, right? Because if you have capital, you can have a lot more leverage in the market. But in terms of the lower liquidity pairs, there needs to be a way to incentivize them if you're going to have on-chain data.
Right. Well said. Well said. Bill, any last words?
Well, I remember in school, the director of the program said, don't play someone else's game. So I'm into DeFi, trading the tokens, charting them. But when it comes to actually doing yield farming, particularly if you listen to the expertise of the two gentlemen that came before me, I think you leave that to the guys with the tech knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Don't try to play the game with them and think you're going to win. This pickle chart is interesting.
Okay.
If you want to talk about a chart, but
yeah, go ahead.
So this is a little bit of throwback from you know, when things were mooning. I called this the Uniswap moon formation. It was a square and a triangle, right, before something would take off. Now I don't know if we have bag holders from this drop, but you know, when things were going up, you'd have a square consolidation and then you'd have a triangle, or vice versa. So whatever this is, I think someone's interested in it post drop. So
what's the market cap on Pickle right now? Do we know?
That would be my super humble contribution to the yield farming conversation.
Yeah, I can pull it up here.
CoinGecko really crushing CoinMarketCap, by the way, in terms of data, and like everyone in our space is using CoinGecko now. I remember 2017 CoinMarketCap was the standard.
I mean, so actually, there's no market cap here.
Supplies unknown. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to the Telegram, find out what that circulating supply is.
Yeah, actually, maybe let's check the Etherscan.
Yeah, we can go to their holders and see how much is locked up in the contracts percentage wise, and then go that way.
Let's go on a second move.
All right. So about 50%, we'll just say a hard number, 50% is locked up in some sort of contract, 55%. So yeah, 40, we'll just say 45% is distributed, minus maybe anything owned by the team. What's the total supply at the top?
743,000.
743,384 times, we'll just say 45%. And what was the price? It was about 50 cents.
$50 right now.
50 bucks.
50 bucks.
Yeah.
So about 16.7 million market cap. Yeah, I'd really have to find out what this thing's doing to justify that at this stage.
Probably not much.
Speaking of market cap analyzation, because I know you guys are big at token metrics on data like that. For me, I don't think any project outside of maybe lockup should be raising more than 3 million. Ideally, everything should be lower than 1.5 million in this market. Anything that's complete shit can probably have a ceiling of 7 to 15 million. Anything Polkadot related or institutionally backed that's like hyped up can get above 30 to 40 million, and everything in between is just guesswork. So that's kind of my my quick take on the market. If it has, I don't even remember back in 2017, Ian, we used to look at teams. I'm not even looking at teams anymore. It's useless. Look at the marketing material. Look at what's going to excite people. These guys are running, these degens are running around right now. Shout out to my Moon Hunter gang. we don't have time to think. This thing's moving 3 times faster than the world right now. So just fire your money, and risk management is king, not financial advice.
100%.
Yeah. Don't buy rope.
Don't buy rope. Don't ever buy rope.
So actually somebody in the chat was asking where to buy rope.
You don't buy rope, sorry.
Yeah, don't buy rope. What did you say, Coach K?
No, it says right behind Matty, don't buy it. So don't buy it unless.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's right there. Don't buy rope. Don't be this guy. Don't buy rope.
All right. All right. So I think it's time for us to wrap up. So, hey, Matty, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've pulled back a lot from the content creation space in a humbling way, I suppose. I have my Telegram channel still, the one rebooted post hack. You can check that out on it's Oh Hey Matty. Just look for it. There is some fake ones. Go to my YouTube channel, Oh Hey Matty. All my links are in all my descriptions in the link below. Catch me on Telegram, all that stuff. But I may be making a return. I know I said that last time I was on your channel, Ian, but I'm working with my editor to set up a studio in the office. So I guess that's bullish news that we're making concrete changes here to return to the YouTube space. But if I return or when I return, it's going to be in a way that we're shooting upwards, not just stagnating. So we're doing serious things over here. But I am extremely busy with the TDeFi Accelerator, with the Magnus Advisory Board, and with my own company, Ohimani Consulting. So it's a lot to,
Now, where can people learn more about that DeFi Accelerator?
Yeah, so you can go to tradedog.io/tDeFi, I believe, and you'll see
Trade.io.
Yeah, let me just bring it up so I have the right. So it's tradedog.io/tDeFi, and you'll be able to see the alpha version of the TDeFi Accelerator with some of the mentors that are on there. It's similar to like a Y Combinator type structure. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right, awesome. And then Coach K?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Coach K Crypto. It's the same on Telegram. I have the same handle, so if you ever want to hit me up, I do answer sometimes. So I try to give to everybody. I'm too nice, I guess, in that way. But yeah, YouTube, Coach K. You can find me on there. Just look up Coach K Crypto. You'll find my channel. And yeah, I try to do funny content as well as very serious. I try to put some jokes in there. So if you like to laugh, definitely come and watch. And I do TA and I review projects that no one's ever heard about yet. And I think that's something in the space that I'll leave with, is that the projects now that you hear about, you're too late. You need to actually go and do the research and treat it like an angel investor or a VC like yourself, because you're going to hear about it. And when everyone tells me about it, it's already too late. So start looking for stuff before people talk about it. Look into them and do your own research, because if you're late and it's already like all your friends already know about it or you know about it, you're probably too late. So start trying to do a little bit more if you want to get into these private sales and these new projects, because it's very competitive because of these low market caps. So if that's my advice for people that are looking to find some new gems, you're going to have to do a lot of that on your own, or follow people like the 4 of us in here who actually do those bits of research and try to get people onto those projects. But yeah, thank you, Ian, for having me here. And it's been really awesome.
Thank you. And then Bill, where can people learn more about you?
Well, crypto_noble on Twitter if you want to see some seriously old school charting with a pencil, right? And then tokenmetrics.com, right? Where, my colleagues are Ian and his AI, right? So that's where you can find me.
I'm going to start calling you Bill Williams. Not sure. I look at that as an honorable compliment, but some may disagree.
Thank you.
And, all right, awesome. Yeah, and I'm at Diary of a Made Man on Twitter, everywhere. Then tokenmetrics.com, also on Telegram at tokenmetrics alerts, discussions. And yeah, I mean, great panel, great discussions, awesome way to kind of wrap up the weekend. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure, and let's plan to have this again. All right, so as we like to end, the moon is not the limit, to the moon and beyond. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, crypto family.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Subscribe and smash the like buttons.
Thank you very much, everybody.